Hey everyone, happy 8 p.m. plus 1 hour and 10 minutes. We had a little technical glitch in sharing from another page. Gosh knows whatever the heck's happening with Facebook. It's one of those challenging things where we kind of need it, but it messes with us. So anyways, it's great to be in front of you. This live is specifically for talking about our announcement today. If you're on the Empowered Lifestyle Revolution page, it's likely you found us around the topic of rights. Mm-hmm. That is not our expertise. That is not our background. We found ourselves in a situation where we have an online business. We had lots of time on our hands, and I was able to network with...
I wouldn't say, I'm going to speak for myself. I did not have a lot of time on my hands.
I had lots of time on my hands.
No.
Where I was able to network, to research, to really get to the bottom of what's going on. And then we created this thing. My challenge has been the online space of online arguments, the division. I must get sent 100 different breakthrough interviews, seen the latest link, the latest petition.
Yeah.
And I don't feel good. I don't feel good. There's remedies that we've provided. There's lots of great people providing remedies. And my challenge has been this. The masses who have been indoctrinated, that are not open to looking at well laid out data, information that's going to help them. And I got thinking about what our expertise is, and that is family wellness. That's been our space for honestly the last quarter of a century. And I was a family wellness chiropractor. We ran detox centers. We have made a movie called Overfed and Undernourished, which really was about highlighting true epidemics around teenagers and obesity and screen time and the need for immediate gratification and all of that.
Yeah.
And Katie wrote a book called Raising Healthy Families in Unhealthy Times. And I thought if we really need to make a difference, it's with the next generation. How do we teach conscious parents, so hopefully if you're listening, that's you, to be aware of not passing on the same challenges that we're facing right now, largely because of the system that we came through.
And also, not passing on limiting beliefs and, things that I'll say for myself, but tell me if you relate or pop in the comments, but has there been something that happened to you in your childhood, something a teacher said to you, something, a kid said to you, and it still affects you, like you still get hung up on stuff like that because you weren't taught the tools on how to process that and work through that. And so you're kind of going through life but looking in the revision mirror. And these things are just not taught in school. And so we will continue to give, great interviews and resources here in this community. Like, we are not going anywhere. Our heart goes out to everyone right now that is in lockdown, that, is homeschooling by circumstance, maybe not by choice right now, where your jobs are in jeopardy, where you are being, forced into a position where you have to choose between your values and, dollars coming into your bank account so that we're totally aware of all of that. But through everything that we've spoken about, we've always come back to focusing 80% of our time, effort, and energy onto solution. And that's where we really look at, like Ant said, our next generation. And so, we chose to take our kids out of school 18 months ago, or just over 18 months ago,
Hey, Jess.
And at that time, definitely one of them was not thriving in the typical schooling system. I know some parents, their kids love it. They are thriving in it, and that's excellent. But now throw onto a whole new layer of, there might be mandatory things happening to my kids, and what are the teachers saying, and their different views and values. There's been a lot more consideration and conversation around homeschooling, or just how on earth do we raise our children through this next phase of life?
Yeah, there's genuine concerns, and that's where we want to put a lot of our time and energy. We've had friends have children suicide through this time. There's a lot of people who have know someone. There's so many concerns. We did a bit of a question in here the other day around what are your greatest stresses. And a lot of it was, how do I guide my children through this? How do I give them some hope for the future?
Yeah.
How do I have the conversation that they can stand up for what they believe in, that they're not succumbing to peer pressure? And that's whether we're talking about particular mandates or just being exposed to what most teenagers are exposed to anyway.
Totally.
So between... we were quite conscious of when we started to have children through preconception around choices, detoxing, values that we wanted to instill. We had quite a clear vision for what that family unit, what we desired it to be. And so that's why we have chosen to put together an academy to help people, to put together a course where if we kind of comb back through, well, what have we done? What has allowed us to create that family unit that is so cherished to us? And the big picture is this. If family units are strong, it means the people within that unit are strong. And if there's strong families, that creates strong communities. And if there's strong communities, there's strong states. If there's strong states, there's strong countries, we can change the world. And I love that. There was a saying, yesterday I was smart. I was trying to change the world. Today I'm wise. I'm trying to change myself. So it's about how do we just control that which we have the control over?
Yeah.
And that's how we live through this. And when I go back and kind of reflect on world wars, atrocities that have happened, where there's bombs being dropped and people are being uprooted, there were still people falling in love. There were still babies being born. You have the choice of how you want to live your life, regardless of what's going on around you.
Yeah.
So let's get down to it. This course, what it is not a homeschooling curriculum where you'll go today at 9:00. If you have a 13-year-old, you're going to teach them Pythagoras' theorem. It is not that, okay? Think about this. Let's just go back. If you think about your education process, I'd love you to pop into the comments on a scale out of 10, how well did your education process equip you for life as you live it now?
10 being freaking rockstar epic. Everything that I, live and breathe, I attribute to what I learned in school. Down to 0, not very. Curious to get a gauge.
So for me, I ended up with 3 science degrees. Yeah, 1 says Haley. I had 3 science degrees at a tertiary level.
5 says Tam. Yeah.
And Anastasia, she's back, which is great. And I love that. It's my very next point, David. What happens if the real future we face bears no resemblance to the expectations we have formed over the prior 70 years? Well, if we don't learn from history, when we look at what life was like 70 years ago, and we're going through an industrial revolution, and the schooling system was made to a bell goes and you turn up here. You listen to what the man at the front of the class says, and he says, do this, and you have certain grades. And so if you listen really well, you can be a manager. It was really teaching us how to be part of the factory system.
The workforce, yeah.
And it kind of just got stuck there. Now, if we look at for the future, the next thing I would love you to start answering is, what do you think are going to be key for your children to know about in the future? What are the emerging trends that you're going to want to be aware of? And then secondly, what are just good character traits? What are skill sets? What are resources that you know in your heart of hearts are likely going to be important for our children to thrive in the future?
It was interesting. While we wait for some answers to come into the chat, today I was working on some things for our website and a couple of different tech things on my computer. My 9-year-old, our daughter, came in. She's like, Mum, oh my gosh, like I could never learn all of this. Like, where did you learn this from? And I said, well, honey, when I was your age, we didn't even have a computer. Like, can you even imagine, like, back in the good old days? And I said, I literally, everything that I know about what I'm doing now in regards to the technology and recording and editing and websites, I learnt myself. I actually taught myself through going on a course or watching YouTube or whatever. And it was so cool. She's like, wow. And, you know, just going, I actually, you know, I'm sure I know I learned resilience and skill sets at school and social things and how to deal with or handle conflict in certain ways. But I can't say there were key lessons that I was like, ooh, that like totally set me up to be a business owner or an entrepreneur. Or, you know, I think about our PE classes and learning the food pyramid. That did not set me up for health and well-being, right? So I love that Nadia just said how to grow food. Absolutely. Like knowing where our food actually comes from. It was interesting when we were filming our health documentary, Overfed and Undernourished. We had done some things with different school groups and things, and seeing children actually not even, like, if you would hold up a fresh beetroot, them not even know what that is, or a tomato, because, well, tomato doesn't come like that at my house. It's chopped up, blended up, or whatever. Sauce, yeah. So it's incredible what might be common sense to you might not be that common to our next generation. And so it's just, for me, when I was growing up, we would literally go pick our fruit from the fruit trees and chuck it in a lunchbox. Mum would be like, what do you want? Go get a mandarin off the tree. That's not how kids typically get to, you know, grow up these days. So it's like, well, how can we connect them back to things that are important?
Yeah, so having reflected on your own education system.
Yeah.
Next question is
We got no more than a 5, by the way, just looking at the numbers that have come through.
The next question is this. Currently, your scheduled children, so if you're thinking about having children, you have small children, you have teens, whatever level, what you're providing them at the moment as far as the school system they're in, extracurricular things, whatever it might be, online courses, how confident are you that they're getting what they're going to need in an ever-changing future? And that's really what this course comes down to, is bridging that gap between what your kids are being exposed to at the moment and then helping you to create a situation where you're 100% confident that they're getting the skill sets, the character traits, the resources, the resourcefulness, such that it doesn't matter what happens in the future, they have an internal resilience. They can think critically. They can ask quality questions. They know how to find information and see it on both sides of the coin. Not just from a book
or a
that
one-sided perspective
that history wrote by the victors, and that's how it is. That they can communicate. They can negotiate. They can deal with conflict.
Yeah.
They can deal with setback. They have a comprehension of how the money system works and how it's going to work. Because like for our children, they each have one Ethereum. Okay. So Bodhi's like, oh my gosh, my net worth's $5,000. And then today he's like, Mum, it dropped. And I love that because then we bring maths into that. Not why am I learning my time? Why am I learning Pythagoras? Why am I learning algebra? All this stuff, I didn't take it in as a child because there was no use for it. Whereas to calculate your percentage of decrease of your net worth, and you even know what that word means when you're young, and
I don't think I knew what net worth meant until I was probably in my mid-20s, to be honest.
Yeah.
I love so Anastasia has said it's important for children to learn how to think for themselves and be self-sufficient in all aspects of life. Adults too, I reckon.
Yeah. Hey,
Tams says self-love, meditation, healthy food, cooking, entrepreneurship, how to make money while you sleep. Imagine if you could go to Tams School of Life, just hitting all those points. How stoked would kids be to be able to be kind of diving into all of that? Like I know those things are important to me, so it comes back to values. But there's so many things that would light kids up, right? So Tam's daughter's got crypto as well. I love that. I think the reason we want to bring this up with you is with what we put together with this academy, and we've just put our thoughts together. It had so many questions and worries and concerns being shared by so many of this amazing community. Is going like, how do we support you, and how do we share and impart what we have learned with what we're doing with our kids? For some of you, your kids are happy at school, amazing. But how can you layer on top of that a high level of empowerment where you get to bring in different facets? Like there's no guidebook when it comes to raising kids, right? There just isn't. And whether you've got a brand new bub, whether you've got little ones around your ankles, whether you've got, kids in primary school, or our eldest is about to be taller than me, which I can't believe. All of you have different looking families and ages of kids and all of that, whether you're choosing to have them in school and they're happy, or maybe one of your children is not thriving in the school system, or you're like, nah, this does not feel good, I'm out. There's a lot of great teachers out there, but the system isn't working for me. So whatever that looks like, it's then going, well, how can we help you create a framework that you can help your kids win and thrive? And not only just that, how you can be not telling them what to think and believe, but helping them find out what they think and believe. Because I know for me, I think about my schooling, your schooling, we were told what to think and believe. And if that didn't match up with what the teacher said was the answer, we were wrong and you don't get the marks, right?
Well, it's not just that. There's three things. It's learning things that aren't relevant to your personal values and your vision for where you want to be. The second is the lost opportunity of you could have spent that time learning things that were going to accelerate you closer to what you want to do.
Yeah.
And then the third is the detriment of a system where in order for you to be good enough, you have to achieve a certain grade. And the grade is required that you can rote learn and regurgitate back what the man or the woman at the front of the class or in that particular book says how it is.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then you have all sorts of self-worth issues. Instead of teaching self-love and teaching about all of those different aspects of how to relate to people, how to someone, like for our daughter, she's full vegetarian, never had an animal in her body. Her 2-year-old brother, so a 9 and 11, he's full carnivore. Like he can't have a meal without meat. And so how do those two sit next to each other and have a meal? And then you extrapolate that to go, well, I believe in this religion and that religion, or I believe we should have this particular experimental injection, I shouldn't. how do you broach that and be proactive about this will be the world we live in, and how do we stand up for what's right to us without making someone else wrong? So we're so excited. We are, firstly, to put all of our focus and energy and passion into something that we so deeply believe in, something that I think is going to have a generational transformation, something that's going to have a ripple effect, something where we get to connect with other conscious parents. So we're not going to tell you what to teach your children. We're going to give you a framework that you can work through. And as Kate said, you might have, I love the book by Robert Kiyosaki, Why A Students Work for C Students. And he did some amazing study and realized that, well, you answer this in the comments. If you're really smart and you're good at school, what are the two career choices that you're often encouraged towards? If you're one of the really smart kids, you're either going to be a what or a what. Might be a little bit of a delay, but I'm sure you guys would get it. Yeah, it's doctor or a lawyer. And so A students, you're kind of, now you might even like doing that. It doesn't necessarily mean that you, that's the career path you want, but that's how society kind of directs us.
Yeah.
And so those A students, it doesn't mean it's their level of happiness. It doesn't mean it's their level of income. There's so many aspects to how our society is set up by default, and it's not deliberate. We're not having the conversations early enough with our children about what they could do, the vision, how they would have their life, and then reverse engineering that to then create a curriculum that's matched to that. So it's their vision and their values is scheduled. It's creating their weekly plan that they came up with. And because they came up with it with you, because we're going to teach you how to guide the process.
And also lead from the front so that you are following your passions too. There's no point in, living your life through your children and putting any like your desires and your passions aside. Like, your kids love seeing you doing things that light you up. And so if you're not doing that and you are devoting your life to making the kids' life most amazing, and then your personal relationship suffers, maybe you and your partner, there's breakdown there because it's all about the kids, that will not serve you and it will not serve them. Them being the center of the universe and everything revolving around them, that does not serve them for real life, because real life does not work like that at all. So you're going to be leading from the front. That's the exciting part. As this empowered, raising empowered families comes through, you get to live it first and then really see your children bring it to life, in the years to come too.
Which is the ultimate personal development course.
Yeah.
Because
yes,
my belief and my observation is our children are there to reflect back to us our disowned parts, the parts we don't love. And so that's why your children are your greatest source of joy and your greatest source of frustration, often simultaneously. And we make it about them instead of realizing that they're here to teach you. They're here to guide you. And if you can have this symbiotic, synergistic relationship where you're learning and growing together, it becomes fun.
Yeah.
I have friends who, they're the ones near suicidal because their kids are around them all day. And they're turning towards the drink and all of that because I just got to get my kids back to school. I can't stand to be around them. And that's totally fine. That's that person's journey. This program probably is not for them. This is for people who want to value the family unit. They value the time they want to invest with their children. They're not going to teach them a curriculum. You're going to learn how to ask questions that allow them to ask questions. learning should be the act of asking and finding questions, and so the power comes from asking quality questions. So I digress. I want to go back to my ABC.
Okay.
A's end up doctors, lawyers. B's end up as bureaucrats. They work for the government, good, solid jobs. And it's the C students who, they got through school, but they were pushing the system. They were asking questions. They weren't nice to teach because they didn't follow the system per se.
The little rebels.
They became the entrepreneurs. They were the ones who solved the world's problems, and then the doctors and the lawyers and the accountants worked for them, and they understood how to work with the bureaucrats because they learnt the communication. And so it's wise to start to see, well, where might my child or each of my children fit into that system? And how do we allow them to thrive? So it may be, hey buddy, so it may be a situation where what we're teaching in this course, you're going to layer on top of a schooling system. And the principles you have that we're going to teach you, you have at key learning times during the day, which we're going to teach you about. In our family, we sit around the dinner table and we have set up rituals and routines where certain questions are asked. And invariably, that's where a lot of the learning happens. So that could be done with or without a school system. Then you might take the principles, you go, no, I don't want my children in the system. I am going to take them out, and we'll teach you how to do that. We'll teach you whether it's going to be homeschooling, distance education, unschooling. I don't like any of the labels. It's your family and how you're going to raise them. And you could fatten out the principles and create a curriculum for yourself each day or for each child. So what I'm trying to say is whether you have, you're in pre-planning stages, you have teenagers, you want them in school, out of school, unschooling, this program is going to work for you. Who it won't work for is, here are my children, tell me what to do. I'm relying on you to fix my problems. That's not what we're here to do. We're here just to give you sound ideas. I love the principle of, instead of just giving you fish, teaching you how to fish so that you are then empowered, which is why that word is prevalent, because it's giving you the power that you can do this over and over and over again. And so with our founding member launch, what I love about this is you get to be in this for life. This is a resource you'll have there for life. So whether you want to fast track through it, and it will be a 10 to 12 week process if you're going with us daily or weekly as we release this. And the cool thing about being a founding member is we're going to work with you and your family. Our children will teach some of the lessons. Some of the lessons will be appropriate that your children watch it. Others, it'll just be the adults learning concepts. Or if you're like, that's too intense, I'm just going to drip feed it out and it'll take 12 months, that's fine. You might cherry pick going, oh my gosh, I've got a problem. I need a solution to this. I love that lesson there, and you can go grab it. So we've made it super flexible to help people wherever they're at. And we're excited to. We really are. For me, I need it. I need a new focus. Like I said, you can get caught up in some darkness and trying to fight. And it's kind of futile. I want to get back to grassroots and help conscious parents to give them the skills, to take away the stress of this. That's the other thing. People are concerned, I'm not going to have the skills. I'm not a teacher. I don't have. That's all indoctrination. No one can teach your child. No one has a more vested interest in the well-being of your child than you do. And you need to take that power back, and you need to allow your children to see you in that space. And I really thank David who made that comment, because he helped orchestrate a weekend where we got to spend with David and some amazing other Aboriginal men and women, and just going back and looking at ancient cultures and going, how did they do it? Because they got it right. They had beautiful, rich relationships based on obligations and responsibilities, and where everything was part of knowing what was happening with the land and the seasons, and there's so much we can learn.
And children learning from their elders, not, being taken away from their family to go learn from a stranger. And so, as we said earlier, some of you, the school system is rocking and working for your family right now. So that's epic. There's some of you that are questioning, can I homeschool? The answer is you totally can. Give yourself a little bit more credit. What we learned, I think one of the things that we found quite surprising was as we went through the process of the application and everything, we learned that there was kind of like 10 to 12 contact hours of learning a week for our kids, and everything else outside of that was, them playing, learning through play, their art, their music, being in the garden, all of those things. And so it's actually not as scary and stressful as it might seem to be. It's not a 9 to 3 plus homework kind of job. Absolutely not. And then for those of you that are you've got your little ones and you're just trying to figure out, well, how do we, raise our children intentionally from the get-go? Amazing, because you can kind of do that. And there's no real guidebook when it comes to kids. So we've been able to kind of learn a lot through trial and error, the lessons, everything that we share. We're very, hopefully if you've been a part of this community for a while, you will see we're pretty raw and real with all the good, the bad and the ugly, and just really, really passionate about helping families right now, and whatever your family dynamic looks like, to help you raise your little people into strong, resilient, kind humans that get to do the things that they love, even if there's crap going on in the outside world.
So excited to jump in with you guys. If you're keen, jump in. I know Kate's put the link into
I'll
the
just
comments
pop the
there.
link into the chat. So basically, for you to join as a founding member between now, which is September 8th, through till Sunday midnight, which is September 12th, you've got the opportunity to join us as a founding member, and that's at a special discounted rate to be able to do that. And then from there, we will release to the public in about a month, and that will be at a higher price point. We just want to be able to honor and work with a core group of people that are really all in on this with us. Special needs, absolutely. So Jenna, hopefully I pronounce your name correctly. I think for any family dynamic, whatever that looks like, again, I think sometimes we don't give our children the credit that they need, or just how intelligent they really are. So if you have children with special needs, there's still beautiful ways of teaching them lessons and getting them hands-on in the garden, or helping them through conflict, or looking and asking them questions about the things that they love, so that you can help direct their day and their learning to be more of that, which will probably take away the stress of feeling like they have to, do certain things at a certain level by a certain age, to meet a certain benchmark of, how kids should be. I think that puts so much stress and pressure on families, and particularly, with special needs as well. So happy to chat to you specifically about your family if that's helpful. You can send us a message or pop it in the comments. We're really looking forward to this, and it is our passion. We're not going anywhere on this topic for any time soon with our kids, because they're 9, 11 and 13, and hopefully when time permits we want to be able to travel with them as well. Like, our vision has been to travel around Australia with the kids and explore and learn through that. Kids in secondary school, so Jennifer, regardless of the ages of your kids, for us, our children are, I wouldn't say they are showing signs that they want to be accountants or go to university just yet. There's definitely entrepreneurial spirit coming through. And so we are directing their learning in that way. And each of them is very different. Now, our youngest is really, really passionate about animals. And there's a high likelihood that at this point in time, she wants to be a holistic vet. So that will probably mean at some point she will need some sort of tertiary education officially on the books, if that makes sense. And so there's bridging courses she can go do at TAFE and do it in a shortened period of time, condensed. And here's the thing, when children, or when anyone, you included, are learning something that you're passionate about, you are going to blitz through that versus just ticking the boxes and going through the motions to get through the years until you can do a certain thing. So there's always a way. There's always a way if you have a child that's really, really smart or really hands-on with things or really musical, or like there's always an avenue that they can take. And think about how many times any of you have changed career paths. Like I think about, we put so much pressure. I remember year 10 careers day. Oh my gosh, who am I going to be? What am I going to be when I grow up? What courses am I going to do? What extra, like I did physics and chemistry. My goodness, that's because the careers person said I should. And that was not, I just caused a lot of problem for my teachers actually. I was that annoying student. So think about, sometimes as parents, I think we can get caught up in, but what if they aren't getting what they need? Or what about university and all those things? But I am sure there's people on the line right now that you've got a degree that you're not using. You just racked up a HECS debt and it seemed like a good idea at the time, and you probably had a great time and met lots of cool people, but you're not actually working in the space where your degree was. And so there's many ways that we can pivot in life, and I think it's important not to get too worried about that.
Yeah, 2 points I want to cover. So Ash has asked, at what point in your kid's schooling life is it too long to make this move? For example, kids establish relationships with mates. I can only go off our son, our 13-year-old. He has more friends and is closer to more mates now because he's happy. Because the time that he is at home and he's learning and he's growing, his self-esteem has gone through the roof.
Oh my gosh, the confidence.
And so now he has more friends, both who unschool, homeschool, and are still at school. He's established or maintained those relationships. The other concern people have is, I guess you're alluding to that, is the social life. If they're homeschooling, how's their social life? We're going to talk you through all of that. And by all accounts, they are better equipped. They have better relationships, not just with kids their own age. They can speak with adults. They can speak with little kids. They can speak with great grandparents at a much better level, because that's how we would have been raised traditionally. Not everyone who's that age will put into that four walls and they'll just all learn those things together, regardless of who they are or what spike or ebb or flow they are at that age. And so this is really being caring. It's being specific for exactly what that individual soul asks questions about, is curious about. We're going to teach you how to elicit their values.
I love what Jennifer just said. I left school at 15, was dyslexic, and sold my company for a fortune and still have a passive income. And that's the story. I think there's so much of us that thinks about the grades and all of these things. And I don't know about you guys, but have a think about, in your life right now, who are friends that are still prominently in your life from school? Because I remember a friend of mine, as we were talking about homeschool and what about friendships and all this stuff, and our mate goes to us, just out of curiosity, how many people from school are still in your life? And I was like, that's a really good question. Because I thought, if we pick up and travel, or if we do pull them out of school, but what about their friendships? I have one friend. We happen to be best friends since kindergarten. She's still in my world. She's one of the most dearest people in my life. Everyone else has happened through having kids and going to a seminar and, the company that we work with, all of these things. That's where my friends have come from. So sometimes I look at actually the lack of drama in friendships that our children have, because they're actually spending time, with kids they like, with the same values, not the drama and the other stuff that I've been hearing. And Jennifer went to 10 schools. Yeah. So I think there's always going to be challenge and growth and opportunity, whatever path you choose. And that's okay. I think it's just not, knowing if you get it wrong, you can always make a different decision. If you pull your kids out of school and go, a term in, that actually does not work for us, you can always put them back in. There's no hard and fast rules with things. And you not teaching them a certain lesson at a certain term in their life is not going to ruin them. We got to give ourselves a little bit of grace, I think, in the journey as well. And if you haven't listened to our Raising Empowered Families Challenge that we did a couple of weeks back, you can listen to it on our podcast, our Empowered Lifestyle podcast, or you can join the Facebook community where all the resources are in there, and just kind of giving you a little bit of a taste, I guess, of the framework and how we will be continuing to support, families that join us in our academy. But yeah, super excited for what's possible. You all have, little geniuses and little souls to help guide and encourage to be their best selves. And
I love what Vicky says. Vicky's a neighbour. Hey, Vicky.
Hey, Vicky.
You can probably hear us from our office.
Yeah.
Amazing what you can learn alongside your children given the opportunity.
Totally.
So I'll let you know a little confession. There's all sorts of stuff I wanted to do as a child that I never got to. And as an adult, I probably wouldn't do them for myself. But I get to do it with my kids. So I've started horse riding, and that's a ritual that we do every week. And most kids are doing maths and English and all that stuff, but the life lessons we get from that, the conversations, they know I'm going to teach them something about anatomy on the way there in the car. And then on the way back, the little ritual we have of going to the farm stall and looking at the organic food and all of that. So we're going to teach you how to look at what's most important to you, what's most important to each member of your family, and how do we create communication? How do we create rituals, a routine that allows you to nourish all of those gifts together?
Yeah.
And
Tam's saying she started skateboarding with her son. Epic! That's so cool.
Wear pads.
Yeah.
Wear pads and helmet.
Yeah, you don't want to be that mum with the broken arm from that cool skateboarding trick. But yeah, I hope you get the sentiment, guys, that we're here to serve and support you. And yeah, we just want to help more families win right now and feel like, you can have a great job, there can be money coming into the bank, your health can be on point. But if there's breakdown and disconnect and you sit down at the dinner table and your kids are in one room and you're at the other, or everyone's on a screen, or they don't feel like they can come to you and talk about crap that's going on in their world. Like, I know I just always wanted to be that parent that my kids would come to me, they'd call on me, their friends would call on me if ever anything went down. And so how do you be that, but also have firm boundaries and have fun and live your passion and work through conflict? Like, there's so many layers to this journey called life, and throw kids into it. It's like, whoo, there's a lot of stuff there. And so, to have a little bit of a helping hand along the journey, because some of us might not have had the best examples of parents or role models in our life, and so some of you might feel like you're flying a little bit blind. And we've definitely sought mentors, and we have some incredible ones that we're excited to share and introduce with you that have been big in our life to help you on that path as well.
So yeah, excited to learn and grow together through this process. And just jump in, guys. I know that I still pinch myself as there's things that I learned at 30 and 40 that I'm teaching my 9, 11 and 13-year-old. And just going, man, if I had have had those distinctions then, just the joy I could have had through my life, and not the self-sabotage and not the self-destructive patterns. So whether, as I said, we've got lots of information that's going to be key for teens. We've got so much that's applicable for infants and toddlers. And then even people just planning to go, aha, I know how to do that.
Yeah.
So a lot around the health aspect, because that will be one of the cores, regardless of who you want to do and be and all of that stuff. If you don't have your health, then we'll teach you how to ask your children the right questions so they value health.
Yeah.
And so they want to know about food. They want to know how to nourish their body. They want to know how to exercise it. They want to know how the nervous system works and innate intelligence. And what about our superconscious mind and our self-conscious mind and our unconscious, and how do we learn? And just so they're little sponges, but learning things that are going to last them a lifetime, not stuff just to get a grade, to pass, then never use that again. So excited, and the community that invariably evolves from these kind of things, where you will create lifelong friendships. You will meet other people who are, oh my gosh, you think like me, you want to raise your children like me, and we get to all share in this together. So jump on in, guys. If you've got questions, please reach out to us so that we can really serve you guys and make sure you get the most out of this.
Absolutely. Jennifer just asked, how can I send this video to my friend in New Zealand who've got 2 kids and desperate for an alternative? We will absolutely make this recording available as well, Jennifer, so you can pass that on. So make sure we get that to you. And share the love. If you've got friends that you feel like are maybe considering or just feeling like they're challenged with whatever level of parenting they're at right now, this could be a really beautiful pathway for them to feel supported on the journey as well. So thank you, everyone. I hope you have a beautiful rest of the evening, and look forward to seeing you guys real soon.
Bye, Jen.
Bye.
Bye, Tam. Bye, Vicky.